My name is Lily Tuzroyluke, and I'm reading from my next book, which is about indigenous residential schools in Canada. This story takes place in the 1950s in British Columbia, in the very southern part of British Columbia in Chilliwack. And the story begins as a man is in this room, in a locked room, and he doesn't know why he's there. And he has a memory of his childhood, his adulthood, his ordination as a priest, but he doesn't know why he's in this particular room. And his psychiatrist comes in and says, You've lost your some parts of your memory. You're currently on trial. You're suspected of being a pedophile. You're suspected of homicide, and we're here to evaluate you. And the 1950s, a very macabre era for mental health. We had the lobotomy, electroshock therapy, and also LSD treatments, which he is being prescribed in this scene. And also a warning that the scene also includes child sexual abuse, which did happen at indigenous residential schools. What is this? A precaution, dear, for our workers. We have to think of our patients and our workers. Humor Jim and Adolphe for me. Let them do their job so they can go home. What you got for me, Doc? She stood over his clipboard, looking at his notes, body touching his body. He was startled by the touch, uncomfortable. He felt disgusted by the personal intrusion. The previous dosage worked. Let's maintain the same dosage and see how we do. He pointed to the prepped medicine on the tray, a way to get her to step away. She held the needle to the light, tapped and jabbed Sheldon's arm. She patted his upper arm, smiling at the doctor and the patrons. The patrons unstrapped him. The room emptied. Sheldon watched the sunlight move from left to right, downwards to upwards, all the while, his stomach glowing with happiness. Ecstasy radiated through his body like sea currents. He laughed, savoring every crest. Hey, Doc, this is my treatment. I'm happier than a skipper in a new boat, happier than a fish away from the hook. You there, Doc? He wiggled his legs and yelled. Off in the distance, he heard singing of tiny bodies, happy and joyous singing, but from tiny bodies like mice, cartoonish singing. His white bedding looked strange. He flopped his heavy head downwards to his chest, and the bedding expanded, grew, stretched farther than the horizon, undulating, vast, like ripples of sand dunes. Little peoples rose up from the white bedding, like the ripples of the dunes, singing in unison, and he laughed. If he could clap his hands, he would clap his hands. They jumped and cartwheeled and juggled and sang in their squeaky mouse voices. They battled each other with wooden swords and wooden pikes, jests, each falling down to the ground in pretend death with exaggerated falls. The hospital patrons opened the door, entered, then the nurse. All three staff members glided in long coiling snakes of themselves, a dozen replicas of themselves, each replica bleeding into the other, blots, dyes, and molts. He told them of the little peoples on his bed. The patrons untied the strap across his chest and propped up his bed at a slight tilt. He watched the little peoples jump and cartwheel away from the patron's hands. When the door shut with a volcanic boom, the little peoples jumped in unison. When they landed on their feet, their nails turned black and grew and grew and grew. They raised their hands up into the air with their long nail claws, and the walls started oozing black tar. He guffawed, covering his open mouth, still laughing, still in ecstasy. Tar dripped down the walls, gooey, black, yet shiny as a mirror. He saw his own reflection sitting in a reclining position, strapped down at the waist, hospital gown, messy hair, half beard. The little people didn't sing anymore. They held pikes in their hands. He tried shaking them off, jerking his legs, kicking his legs, swatting them away like insects. Fast they are, he thought. Fast we are, they repeated in unison. A river, he whispered. He knew he was on a river. The bed jerked forward like a train ready to depart. The bed floated at first, floated down a wide stream, bumping along. The tarry river is burning lava. He screams about the lava. Will he burn up? Will the bed burn up? Somehow he knows he's safe from the lava. It is his childhood home. He sees details he's forgotten, the checkered and moth-eaten curtains above the kitchen table, the graying walls, the holes along the walls chewed open by mice and shrew, the heavy iron stove. Him and his siblings hiding in a closet. The room is empty until the bed covers billow upwards. Two figures emerge from the bed covers like magicians. He can look. He knows these figures. His father grunts and sweats, grabbing Sheldon's hair, mounting him from behind. Wet as your mother, his father whispers. Wet as your mother, the little people say in unison. Church. He's a grown man. All the people are standing. Preachers, nuns, indigenous students. He stands in the far back. They stand in prayer. They stand singing hymns. Sheldon sticks his hand down a boy's pants. The boy doesn't say anything. The boy doesn't move. The boy holds his psalm book in his hands, singing, stiff and not moving. Lies, it's all lies, he yells. Truth, it's all truth, they say. This is the house of the Lord, house of the Lord, house of the Lord, they sing. The nuns start walking in a circle, chanting, dancing, holding crucifixes to their chests, beating themselves with whips, holding up their skirts to expose naked bodies underneath. At some point, they toss away their clothing, naked women, naked nuns, keeping their habits on their heads, stroking each other, kissing each other. Nuns transform into priests, women into men, the young girl into a young boy. The priests continue their circle, grinning, walking, dancing, chanting, sodomizing, cardinal sin. The little people spin the bed and another scene appears. A cedar forest under a starry black night lights from the residential school in the distance. He chases a small boy running, tripping, looking back at Sheldon, gaining on the small figure. He grabs the boy by the hair and crashes forward. He forces the boy further onto the ground, onto his stomach. Stop, doctor, nurse. Lies, it's all lies. Truth, it's all truth. He smells the damp earth, every drop of sweat, the muck on his suede shoes, urine streaming from the boy's body, acidic vomit from the boy's mouth, sexual spermy leakage, all these odors choking him, burning his nostrils and throat. He smells the boy's handmade boots, laces made from homemade leather. Even as Sheldon closes his eyes, he feels the small, lifeless boots behind his eyes, behind his brain, behind his navel cavities. The boy kicks his legs and arms, flailing, digging into the dirt, then a quickening, his arms and legs flailing faster and faster, fast as a bee's wings, as a hummingbird, as a dragonfly. He hears the buzzing of the boy's arms. When the boy stops moving, the earth rumbles. Hours or days passed. He doesn't know. Has it been days? He finds a cigarette pack, smoking another. He hears the door unlocking, echoing, more volcanic booms. The guards escort a woman into his room. One patron unfolds a metal chair, the same metal chair as the doctor. She sits. She's not 25 years old. Bright curly red hair tucked into a bun. She wears a house dress, black loafers, and fern green sweater, green like her eyes. Her freckles swirl around her flawless, poreless skin, celestial, sparkling, like the fronds of the Milky Way. He hears the cawing of ravens. This draws him to the window. He doesn't see the ravens. Instead, he sees the iridescent feathers of the raven ascending from the sky by the thousands, millions, billions. He stands underneath the sky of raven feathers, not a rotted ceiling, not a psychiatric hospital, a sky of black feathers fluttering together from horizon to horizon. No one exists under the sky except Sheldon and the red-haired woman sitting on the metal chair. She lights a cigarette and sets a drawing pad on her lap, charcoal stick in hand. Who are you? Sheldon asks. He doesn't look at her. He looks up at the sky. I'm your memory. She blows out smoke, sliding the ashtray toward her. Then you're the artist. Last we spoke, we drew the dandelion field outside the school. She held up a partial drawing, the industrial school for Aboriginal children. Several impressive buildings clumped together, surrounded by an iron fence. Two nuns stood outside, monitoring a class of small children in matching uniforms, picking dandelions. He knows this place. Pollen fills the air, still suspended like mist. Cedar trees, largest you've ever seen. Black bears climb the trees, quick as squirrels. Farther up, over a few hills, a silver pond, a pond with a rusty, broken down ford, not shown in her drawing. Kindergartners, chore for kindergarten, easy enough. The priest wanted everyone to work, even the 5-year-olds. You say that with contempt. What child cannot pick a weed, instills responsibility, instills pride in the school? What child in private school doesn't have responsibilities to their school? Private school is an interesting way to describe residential schools. How else would you describe it? You aren't old enough to know the educational system. The young woman sat in silence, another inhale, another exhale. The warm glow in his stomach told him another LSD high was coming. On the way up, he thought. She flitted around the chair like the boy at death, arms and legs, fast as a bee, drawing his memories. He doesn't remember any further conversation with red hair. He remembers her blurry figure, the buzzing, the movements of her hand against the drawing pad. He does remember this scene before he slept, the figures of indigenous peoples. He saw them at first as tiny figures on the horizon, kicking up dust like battalions going into battle, arriving enemy towns with hordes of horses and carts and men. And like the battalions of old, they arrived on horses in carved wooden canoes and birch canoes, by foot arriving by the thousands, millions, billions, covering the land with their angry shrills, cries, mimicry of eagles and seagulls, howling like wolves, trumpeting on conch shells, drumming on hand drums and box drums, holding up their ancient weapons of flint, bone, shell, human hair, sinew of whales, and mammoth tusks, ready to fight, ready to die, ready for justice, ready for revenge. And his human soul, ordained as a priest by the church, ordained as a holy, righteous man, protected by the church as a pedophile, was ripped to minuscule, minute shreds by indigenous peoples of the motherland. Thank you so much for listening, and I look forward to sharing the book of residential schools.